Good morning. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I'm excited to work with the layers of the energy field today. So, as always, just taking a moment to let people jump on. Oh, hey, JP. Yay. So, good morning. Good morning, Laura. Good morning, Debbie. Hope everyone had a restorative holiday week last week, at least here in the US. So today we are working with the layers of the energy field. Energy field, aura, biomagnetic field, depends on what camp you are in. So the there's you've probably seen different pictures of the aura, or you have the person in the middle, and you have a layer, and you have another layer, and you have another layer, and you have another layer. Oh, good afternoon, Gabriella. Yes, good afternoon for the folks, and it's an afternoon instead of morning. So there's different layers, just like different layers of the onion. And when we look at a picture on a 2D dimensional space, it looks more simple. Um, like there's, one color is right here, and then right at the end of that color is another layer, and it goes like this, and it's like, and that's what we have to do to represent it on a 2D representation. What's actually happening with the layers of the field is that they're different vibrational frequencies, so they're overlapping, and it's a dimensional space, or it's this different dimensional frequency, but within the same space. So even though there is a way that it does expand as we go to the less dense energy layers, it's still within, all around us. So we're going to be talking about 4 different layers of the energy field. That 4 layers still encompasses about 2 to 3 feet around us. Now, often we can really expand our field and have it. I mean, a lot of the times, especially if you're an empathic person, when I'm working with someone, it's like the first thing we need to do is get your field in, because, when you sit at the layers of your field, it can be so expansive that you're also taking up 2 blocks to 2 miles. If you've been traveling, part of your field is still over across the country. And so that can feel, no matter, like, oh, I'm doing my breath work, I'm doing my practices, why do I feel swirly and not able to ground? It can also simply be, well, where's the end of you and the beginning of external space? And if the end of your energy field, which is an extension of your being, is 3 blocks away to, I mean, even taking up your whole house, which, especially if you have small children, that does happen, is that your energy field is taking up and holding the child, and especially up to 2 years, that's completely appropriate. Your field is where they are feeling safe within. So especially up to 2 to 3 years, that's normal. And it's why also moms are like, where am I? Not only do lack of sleep, lack of time, space, body sovereignty, it's also simply that your field is holding your young children within it. And that's hopefully also just that helps to create the safe attachment as well, going forward for the child. But we're all maybe don't have, well, if you do have small children, just know that that's happening. But if you don't, and you're working on how to stay centered, how to feel the strength of your spine, the strength of your center, you want to check in with where is the end of your energy field. So, especially if they're, let's say, your parents, you have elderly parents and they live upstate. Or if you're in Europe, they live in a different country, or even, it doesn't even have to be that vast, but let's say you live in Paris and your parents live in southern France or in Normandy, and something is going on with them and you're worried. That worry and that constant, especially on the mental body level, which we'll talk about here in a second, is going to expand your field. And part of you is with them, right? So part of you is with them. And um, which is fine, is not to not think about your parents, not especially when it's directed conscious prayer. What we want to look at is how we can become conscious of when we expand our energy field, when we contract it to a place that feels appropriate and feels stable and feels capable um, in an intentional way versus we don't know it's happening. It's just, especially if we're empaths or super sensitive, it's just what happens. So we can again like create its conscious creation, and then going to the different layers of the energy field and seeing, which layer is out of balance. So, for example, well, first I'm going to pause. A lot of people just um, jumped in. Good morning. So letting all that digest of first thing is where, like when we talk about this energy field or this aura, first thing before even going into the different layers, which layers, you can substitute that word for different vibrational frequencies, different vibrational resonances. So let's say that we could see the radio waves of radio stations is turning that dial. um, so before we even go into that, the first thing you want to do is, especially if you feel really off balanced or you feel so constricted that you can't connect, those times where the very thing that connection would be the help to heal is when we feel most isolated. And that can be when the opposite of when people walk around or we have the habit of having a really big energy field is when we have a super contracted one where it's like pulled in so far that all those different bodies, those frequencies are operating in such a small space. And that feeling of isolation, that feeling of you can't quite see out, you feel constricted, and so that's going to be for the person that feels really well isolated, not able to connect, but in a way that's turned in on the self. Does that make sense? So the question, how about when we are on call with you, how to be in self and be with the call same time when we understand by feeling in our body? It's like anything you want to, I can checking in with yourself, like where is your field, like are you, like if you don't live in the same state as me, if you don't live or even in the same house or same being, like where's the edge of your field? Is the same thing applies, whether you're listening to someone talk on Zoom, whether you're listening to Netflix, whether you're, it's all about when we can stay centered in our own space. And what we're asking today is, where is your space? Where does your space end and another begins? And another can be simply the world at large. So whether you're on a call or not, or um, you want to have your space to where it's a comfortable position, not just comfortable but healthy. So again, like if you're listening to something or if you're listening to me and you can feel that like you are like your field expands completely and you're trying to jump into the space, so to speak, you want to pull it back. So it's like, okay, here you are listening to me, and we'll go into this in an experiential way. I'm just talking about it cognitively first. um, you want to pull, like, where is your field? That's it, really is, that is the main thing, is the awareness, is where, like, especially like if I'm really engrossed in something, if I get into a show, which I don't often because I do get like too swarmy, is or swimmy, is like, do you get so engrossed to where it's like you don't have your center of head, you don't have your own internal um, compass, right? So And again, sometimes it's like it's fine, like lose yourself in like the movie, like when I'm watching Lord of the Rings or like some of my favorite like epic stories. I'm not sitting there the whole time like, where's my space? Where's my space? And it's just like you brush your teeth. So we've talked in different on Facebook Lives. I'm not going to go into what I've, for those who are in the Golden Serpent right now, because not everyone's in the Golden Serpent. But when you, just like brushing your teeth, you connect with yourself, you connect with the earth. You have that energetic hygiene. It's the same thing. So it's not that, again, like it's not like it's bad if your field expands to you're with your girlfriends and y'all are all talking about deep processes that you're in, and it's natural that you're going to all have blendedness while you're there. It's just more of when you get in your car and you leave and you go home and you're not able to get out of a certain emotion, and it's checking in. It's like, is that my emotion or is it my best friend's? And again, like these are all natural like we are more space, more light, more frequency than matter. And that's not even woo woo, that's just like science, right? So everything is energy, everything is light and sound, frequency, energy. That's just what it is, right? So that's who we are. And so it's natural when we go into a grocery store and, it's like so much is going on. If we're not grounded, if we don't feel centered, let's say we go in and it's just like, I need to get my things. And, you're having a day, you're in your head. I mean, this is a lot where happens. We're just in our head so much. We're like here, we're not aware of our body, we're not aware of our surroundings. We get back in our car and we feel like all wonky. Why do we feel wonky? Well, did we just pick up something in there? Check in with your space. Where is the edges of your aura, your biofield? Is it still like encompassing the whole grocery store, and you drive away and it gets more and more expanded? So it's not a bad thing. Like this isn't like, don't ever have your field further than 2 to 3 feet. It's more of, we get to have another tool when we do feel off, that we get to check in, like, where's the end of us? It's not just our skin, right? We are energetic. We are an electrical system of energy, and now it's like, okay, we can get on, I mean, it's pretty, even Barnes and Noble has all the books, right? That like Body Electric, and it's not a new woo, it's not a woo woo thing anymore. Like we know that we are all energy. It's more of now like, okay, what are the tools to just help manage in this energetic universe that has the illusion that it's more matter than energy? But we now know, and sages and psychics and seers have known and mystics forever, that it's been more energy and light than matter. But Western science is catching up. But then what, right? So like Lynn's saying, it's happens on social media. Absolutely. It's like we can get so like the social media scroll thing, right? Like blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, either we feel better, we check in, like, oh, our friends have cute kids, yay. Or we feel like shit, like, oh, they look like they're having the best life ever. And I just sat on the couch and cried. Like it goes, like the whole social media thing is just fascinating. Um, Oh yeah. There's good things. We're all in this together. Like I love that there's, 20 plus people here from all over the world. Yay, social media for that. And it's again like everything is the tool. We get to choose how we're going to use it. Right? Like I mean, what a crazy awesome way to turn, if I go into conspiracy more, not even conspiracy, but what I feel like the energy is of different energies that come in and to disconnect from the body, disconnect from true experience, and then turn that tool on its head. And like, actually, we're not going to stay disconnected. In fact, we're going to feel more connected. We're going to feel more connected from a global community, but we're going to feel more connected to ourselves. And that takes discipline, and I'm getting off subject, sorry. Anyways, that totally happens on social media for sure. So, checking in, like you brush your teeth, where do you end and the external world begins? Just doing that before even getting into the specific layers, which again are those specific frequencies, specific vibrations, will will make a huge difference. When you wake up in the morning, if you have an intense dream, part of your energy can still be in that dream space. Pull it back, bringing it in, to then be able to connect to the body, connect to the earth without feeling overwhelmed. And we feel overwhelmed when our space is really big. So, all making sense? Any aha moments? Okay. Absolutely. So Lynn just asked if we become more sensitive to these energies. Absolutely. I mean, this is happening to everyone has a bioenergy field. Everyone has energy centers, meridians. It's not like, let's take acupuncture, for example. It's not like people go to acupuncture, like they're the ones with meridians and everyone else doesn't have it. And if you are going to acupuncture a lot, it's like you become sensitive, like the meridians light up. You can feel the different pathways. Folks that are more asleep, not that you have to go to acupuncture to be awake, but the folks that more asleep on the planet, they don't have any less connection to the divine. They don't have any less connection to these energy fields. It's the density is different. So the more refined you become in your energy field, the more refined in your sensitivities, the more you can see just like that. Like, oh, there's the edge of my energy field. I sense it. I know it. Now, if I asked someone I know that is not into any of this, like, where's the layer of your energy field? They're going to think like I went off woo woo land. Regardless if I said science backs it up. And they're not going to be able to sense it. They're not going to be able to feel it, which is why. So for moms who are on the call, especially for young children who are super sensitive, I was working with an 8-year-old, super crystal being amazingness, and super sensitive. And the issue was that she was having some hard time at school. And when we did this exercise and she thought it was really fun and like on it like that, her energy field was encompassing the whole school. So she was not able to distinguish herself from others. And it's like she was feeling a lot and hearing a lot. By working with this, and she learned how to pull her energy field in, and her mom messaged me that it made a complete difference and that she's able to go into the lunchroom and not feel overwhelmed and not break down, because that's partly too what's going on, especially for sensitive kids, right? They don't have the cognitive skills, they don't have that awareness. It's just like they're just feeling emotion, feeling energies without understanding why. And so that can be like when, kids are having meltdowns, and it's like, why are they having a meltdown? It's like, most likely they're just feeling everything that's in the room and their energy field is way far away. So kids pick this up really easily and it becomes a fun game. Like we started off of like, okay, where's your energy field now? And we just played with it. Like, okay, here it is. Here it is. Bring the energy back in. And so, especially if you are a mom and you have small young children who are sensitive, this really can be a game changer for them. Um, Especially in the younger years, they don't have those defined bound like edges of the energy field like we do as an adult, right? So it's kind of like in the Golden Compass. And anyone ever read the his Dark Materials? Um, like the daemons, right? Like they have like fluid. If you haven't, it's a really good series. If you like fantasy writing. So they have a daemon, an animal that switches, that changes until they go into, it's like their rite of passage into adulthood. Their animal spirit, that's part of their like representation of their soul, is one moment it's a squirrel, one moment it's a hawk. It switches, switches, switches. When they come to that threshold of maturation, it establishes itself and it doesn't change anymore. So there's a solidity there of their spirit animal. Um, and it's the same I'm totally kind of just pulling this in, but it's the same concept of young children until there's a certain place of stability, which happens in adolescence. You get some more stability, especially in the emotional body, but the mental body and actually spiritual body, you don't get some sort of more refined boundaries until the early 20s. So and it has to do also with, it takes to the early 20s that our prefrontal cortex or prefrontal lobe is still in development. That's why it is so important to, I mean, good Lord, I think about like all that I did before I was 20. Um, that was not great for my brain. Survived, but that does have a big effect when we start to work with that. Oh, The Golden Compass. Yes, you're reading the Book of Death now. Philip Pullman. Thank you. Couldn't remember. Okay, so that's really yeah, working with the layers. So we're going to go into experiencing the different layers. So there's 4 layers we're going to work with today and feel into. One is the physical etheric. So the physical etheric is the energetic blueprint of the physical form. So it's the first like dial that we turn in density. It's the first, it's the most dense. So the most dense is the body, right? Dense perceived matter, more light and sound than matter. But and then we have the physical etheric that rest. If I drew it on a 2D, or when you see the pictures, if you Google aura, it'll be that first layer. Speaking of, when you Google, there's different perspectives of what layers. So I'm going to be saying physical, etheric, emotional, mental, spiritual. Some people switch the etheric and the spiritual. It's the same frequency, but it's a different name, like the language, the wording's different, but same. So the physical etheric is the blueprint for the physical realm. For example, you have a physical etheric blueprint of your liver. So if you have physical issues with your liver, you're going to want to tune into the physical etheric layer of your auric field in your liver, so to speak. Now it gets real detailed, and we're not going to go into too much. It's training after training and things to really start working on really specifics. But we're going to get the feel of how you can just see which layer is in balance and which layer is not. And then there's all sorts of more details within it. So the second layer is the emotional body. So the emotional body houses and is where a lot of our emotions run at. So if our emotional body, for example, if we have a really expanded emotional body, but we have a super contracted mental body, then we tend to be someone who lets our emotions take away with that without the pause, without the able to have witness consciousness, or our rational logic mind doesn't come in at all. And so we're just that like flying around emotions, and it's to the extreme. So that's like super expanded emotional body with a contracted mental body. So you have the physical body, the physical etheric energy body, then you have the emotional body. After the emotional body, you have the mental body. So the mental body is on I just realized I'm talking far away from this. The mental body is the next layer, and that has to do with the mental faculty, our thoughts, our beliefs. So, someone who has a balanced mental body is able to think about concepts in a fluid way, but not become dogmatic. So, if you have a contracted or constricted mental body, it's either a few things could be going on. Is that there's been some just a legit brain trauma that has then affected your capacity for cognitive thought in a healthy, fluid way. Uh, Another thing is that you've become so dogmatic in a belief, and it's like it's like crusty, and you can feel it, like you can sense it, where it's like all of these, it's like the energetics of wearing like clothes that are too small, when it's contracted, or it's like, oh, I'm completely naked and I have no clothes when it's super expanded. So when you have a contracted mental body, then there's ways that there's not a fluid of thought, and then this is the loop, right? And we can be dogmatic about anything. I think like some of the most dogmatic when I was in the raw foodist community was the raw foodist community. If I was like, oh, I need like warm cooked food, it was like, ah, I'm gonna die of cancer because I'm not eating raw food. It was pretty intense. But so it can be a dogmatic thought on anything. We clearly see it in our country on beliefs and thoughts, dogmatic, constricted mental faculty. On the opposite side of that, if your mental field is not in a balanced place and is overexpanded, your mental field, then that is also can lead to mental instability. And that can range anywhere from not able to get a hold of your thoughts, like your thoughts are looping, not in a super focused way that has that constricted, and you'll be able to feel it. We'll go into the experiential soon, but in a way it's erratic, and the mental field doesn't have coherence. In a way that is different than the constriction is different than the balance. Then moving into the spiritual layer, and we're only going to talk about one of like the different layers of the spiritual body as one body. It gets pretty detailed when you dive into it, but for right now, in the purpose of this call, the spiritual layer is going to be one body. So when we invoke the spiritual body, the spiritual energy field, you'll be able to sense also, these are step ups in refinement of energy, of going from the most dense physical etheric to the most refined in frequency. And so when you go to the spiritual energy body, this is where the beliefs, the soul, the connection to the divine, the connection to your own oneness, your own connection to yourself, self being capital S. So with this, if you have a super, especially if you have a super contracted mental body and a super contracted spiritual body, this usually is where the spiritual dogma comes in. And that's where your concept of God, your concept of the divine is going to be pretty limited, especially if you have the mental body contraction as well. Similarly, if you have the expanded, overly excessive emotional body that's super expanded, with a super like overly expanded spiritual body, that's going to be where the mad mystic, which again, like these aren't judgments whether it's right or wrong. It's just like, how do you function? We talked about this a little bit on the Golden Serpent Priestess call last night of, the line between delusion and illumination is pretty thin. And the line between, ecstatic union with God and then landing in a mental hospital is really, can you function? Can you function on the day to day? Like, have you lost that grounded ability? To function in the world. So anyways, so the having the emotional heart body open, and then the spiritual body is more that Rumi-esque, like diving in with ecstatic poetry dripping off your mouth, of making love with the divine and making love with the union of consciousness. And I'm giving extreme examples, and we vacillate and we switch, and it's moment to moment. If I check my energy field, or someone's energy field one day, or even one moment, they come in the morning, they end up, their field could look and feel a certain way. They go do their thing during the day. They might have an upsetting call. They might have a super joyous call, the myriad of life experience. I see them at night. They're going to be different people, versus the person I saw in the morning. Like, we are moment to moment changing, and our energy fields are, biochemical reactions in our brain that are happening. It's going to be different in the morning than it is at night, and based on our hormones and blah, 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 blah. So, which all affect these different fields. So, nothing is static ever. And so how we can really use the knowledge of working with these different layers of the energy field as a tool is that it's gaining more self-knowledge, gaining more self-awareness. So when things do feel real off and and it doesn't feel like the time, right? Because we're not balanced. And I don't actually believe in this concept of like, oh, balance, like perfect balance, right in the middle. I think we're always in motion and always fluid, and it just happens to see like where are we on these different spectrums. So we can use these knowledge as a tool to see, okay, can I pause? And when we're in a big trigger, sometimes it's really hard to remember to pause, or we're resistant to pausing. If our like inner adolescent is like kicking and screaming, um, usually we don't want to sit down and do the practices. And we get to have witness consciousness with that. Like, oh, I don't want to, but I have the tools, but I don't want to. How interesting. Maybe I'll do it anyways. Maybe I won't, and just let the process of growth and evolution happen with ease in that way. So anyways, going with these tools. So it's like brushing your teeth, right? It's energetic hygiene. Connecting to the earth is energetic hygiene, connecting to the divine, energetic hygiene, and getting to know yourself. We're not taught our chakra system, our nadis or meridians, and from a different lens, which are like the founding building blocks of our physical form, right? And we're getting there, like in 100 years, if we're still around on the planet. Um, it's going to be a whole different ball game of already what's happened in the last 10 years of how we're taught our energy, like what makes up the self, the personality being an aspect of the self, the body being an aspect of self, but really able to honor these other aspects of self. But especially if we're in the same generation, we were not taught this. Okay. Any questions before going into feeling these different layers of the field? Why someone's if someone's typing. So one thing that I said in the description of the event is what happens, and I see this happen so much, is that we are working really hard on healing a certain issue and healing a certain thing. So it could be headaches. It could be something physical, that level. It could be heartache. It could be mental fog, brain fog, right? So it can be a myriad of different things. And we're doing the things, we're taking all the herbs, and we're going to acupuncture, and we're meditating, or we're doing the things, right, that we think that is going to specifically help this certain issue. Now, what is so important and so good to know about these different layers is we get to see where is the origin of that issue. So, for example, I'll use migraines, since I get migraines occasionally and sometimes a lot. And I've done like every cleanse, and, not eating gluten to eating gluten to blah, 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 blah. All the physical things, acupuncture, this, that, hormones, check that out, blah, blah, blah. And for some people, that's the root of it, is migraines, is certain things on the physical level. And that's not it for me. It has its root in the emotional body. So if I can do all the physical things in the world and it doesn't move my migraines, now if I start to work with the same migraine, a migraine pattern, and I go to the emotional body. So I'm working at the emotional layer of the energy field, which is an actual frequency, and I work on healing it at that layer. Then it starts to ease up. And I know when I get a migraine, I know I'm not tending to something on the emotional layer around what I have found the pattern to be. So it can be something that manifests on the physical, and that the seed of it is in a different layer, and it's time to really work with that layer. Now, one common thing that I have found is working with the heart. And we tend to work at the heart at the emotional level. So whether it's therapy or our own emotional work, and something is just not moving. It's just like, why is this loss, this grief, which is important to tend to, um, not moving though? I'm like doing all the things. I'm doing the grief ritual. I'm journaling, therapy, like the whole thing. I'm working on the emotional level because that's what we tend to think of for the heart. Now, what I've seen a lot of is that the healing actually is going to happen at the mental level. So it might be a concept. So the heart is getting affected, and it's just this intense, it's still a feeling of loss, let's say, but the root of it could be on a mental level on the heart layer. So at the heart chakra, but on the mental body. So let me pause. This might get, we're going to keep it real basic, but we'll look at a certain issue that you have on all of the layers. So let's say it's speaking your truth. Like you're really like, you know what, 2020, I'm going to like be able to like speak my truth and to own my power more. Those are two different things. So speak my truth. And you go, and it's just like this clamping down of the truth, and the feeling of clamping down at the throat. Now, it could be at sometimes the truth, we can get to the mental level. Like we're going to speak, we're going to like voice our mental opinion. And it could be at the emotional level. You know, it could be at the mental level. It could be at the spiritual level, that you took a vow of silence somewhere on your incarnational journey, and that vow is still sitting in your spiritual framework and your spiritual body. And so it's looking at, you know, where is that issue on all of the layers, and then asking for it to come to balance, asking it for it to heal. And it can be very I mean, it really, I won't say miracles, and I will say miracles and magic, that can be perceived. But when we really can look at things on the different layers, there's going to be different insight, and there's going to be different healing. For my heart, it might be, actually, I need to like get out of the feeling of loss. I'm in the loop of the emotional body loss, and I can keep draining it and doing all the gratitude or grief rituals in the world. But it's like this portal of emotion is opened in the heart, when really the healing that needs to happen is a balance of the mental body at the emotion, at the heart level. I need to bring in some more logic. I need to bring in some more of that mental. It's kind of like that, the swords and the tarot energy of like that sharp clarity, boundaries, focus, to tamper, to balance out the grief or the feeling sensation in the heart. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, so as you know what you're writing with, so you're going to pick a thing. We're going to go in now, and you're going to first we'll feel the layers, and then invite you to, so Debbie, you would pick what you just went through. If you want to, on and you're going to pick something you've been working with, and you're going to pick, and then it's going to be different for everyone. I'm not, we're not going to know what layer, what thing you're working on. You're just going to find that feeling. You're going to find that sensation in your body. Where does it live in your body? And then we're going to go through the layers and see, asking, does the root of this issue, you might think it lives in the physical etheric, and maybe it does. Because that's another thing. One more thing is, especially when we get on the spiritual path, and everything is a symbol and meaning and yada yada and blah blah blah, is we can get overly identified with trying to find meaning, when sometimes like a crick in the neck is the crick in the neck, and you slept wrong and you need a new pillow. And it's literally like the seat of it is in the physical and the physical etheric realm. You don't have to like, oh, maybe I like had a dream that like my head was chopped off in a different life, and like, oh, I haven't like spoken to my father in 10 years and that's the reason I'm having this, neck ache this morning. Maybe. And it may be that you just like need a new pillow. Right. So it's just like sometimes a sneeze is a sneeze. And we can go the other extreme once we get really into symbols and to trying to understand, like what things are, which are important, especially if we've come from a place of density where everything's physical reality. If you're in the temple of earth and sky and listening to me right now, I doubt that's you. Um, but there's folks that it's are. So it's, where are we at? Have we swung to the other side where it's like your car doesn't start this morning and all of a sudden you're like creating meaning that, oh, I shouldn't, it's because I'm not listening to my inner voice and blah, 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 and I shouldn't go anywhere or something. That's a bad example. Anyways, y'all get what I'm saying. It's like sometimes a sneeze is a sneeze, sometimes a crick in the neck is a crick in the neck, and that's that. And sometimes it's chronic neck pain and it has to do with ancestral lineage line ending with you, that it's time to really be able to speak your truth. So only where that you're at with that. All right, enough talking. We're going to go into the experience. So as always, you're going to have a comfortable seated position, closing the eyes, having the spine straight. Just allowing yourself to tune into the breath, allowing all of that information, all of the ahas, just go and release from your field. With every inhalation, summoning yourself to yourself. On the exhale, allowing yourself to arrive without effort. Feeling the weight of your body on the chair or the bed or the couch or the floor. Pachamama underneath you, holding you, supporting you. Now tuning into the edge of your auric field or your biomagnetic field. And simply notice what you notice. Does it feel like I don't even know where the end is? It's so far away. Does it feel like it's too close to your skin? And after you've gotten a sense of where it's at, asking for it to come into a place of healthy balance, meaning coming into about 2 to 3 feet around you. So if you were standing in the middle of a piece of paper and someone drew a circle around you. So paying attention also to the back, we tend to the front energy body and not the back. And then notice what that does to your body, your energy around your body. Does it feel contained? Or if you're not used to having your energy field close to you, does it feel a little weird or constricted? Now, bringing your awareness to your physical body. Your bones, your muscles, your organs, your skin. Just this dense physical form. Houses your soul and your spirit, constantly in a dance and communication with each other. Then we're going to ask for the physical etheric layer of the energy field. And it's right, like if you were laying down, it'd be that first layer drawn around your body, just a couple inches. It's the densest form of the energy body. Just notice what you notice. The physical etheric layer of your energy field. And we're going to ask that it come to balance, come to the place that would be most beneficial for you right now. So for most of us, that means that it's like turning up the vitality. So it's not necessarily like expanding really far or even contracting, though it might for you. This is, again, I'm going to just speak to the general, but there's always exceptions, and you might be the exception. Or just turning up by asking for the balance, turning up the vitality of the physical etheric. And then we're going to go to the emotional body. So the emotional body is on the higher frequency from the physical etheric. So just calling forth, and again, this is just curiosity, your emotional body, your emotional frequency field. And notice what you notice. All of a sudden, you might get a sense that you're like way out into space. Or it might feel like it just, your field contracts. Just notice what you notice. And then we're going to ask for it to come to balance for you right now. You might feel it readjust itself, bringing it in or expanding a little. You might feel a pull at your heart or your belly. Just asking for emotional field balance. Moving to the mental body, which is another step up in frequency and vibration from the emotional body. Just tuning into the mental field of your energy anatomy, energy circuitry. Notice what you notice. Asking for balance, or if there's another word you like better, asking for it to come to the most healthy state at the time. And then moving on to the spiritual body, the spiritual layer of the field. It's the most highest frequency of these different layers. It's feeling into your spiritual body. And asking for it to come to the healthiest state, asking for balance. Sorry if you hear my dogs barking. I think UPS just got here. And then picking an issue that you have been working with. So it could be a physical issue, it could be a mental or emotional issue. It could be a spiritual issue, feeling disconnected from yourself or from the divine. So letting yourself rest at that place. So if it's a thought, you're just going to rest in the feeling or the frequency of thought. So for example, if it's mental fog, you can rest in your brain, bringing the awareness to your brain. If it's some heart issue, you can put your awareness on your heart center. If you've had belly ache, digestive issue, or if there's something physical going on, resting your awareness there. If there's a spiritual feeling not connected from the divine, actually the guidance, so putting your awareness on your crown center. So having your awareness on this spot, on this certain thing that you've been working with, so whether it's in the brain or any of the chakras, the centers that represent that, we're going to go through the different layers. So feeling into that issue. So really invoking that feeling, that sensation. If it's mind looping, that, you know, when we just spend so much in our mind, we forget we have a body. So really invoking that vibration, that experience. And now asking, we're going to go to keeping your awareness on that spot. We're going to ask to go to the physical etheric layer of that issue. So for example, if it's, I feel butterflies in my stomach a lot. I'm making things up, but I'm going to stay present in my stomach and I'm going to ask for the physical etheric layer with this particular issue in mind. And then we're going to ask for balance. Then going to the emotional body layer with the same issue. And this is where you'll really start to see and know, like where you'll get that aha, or maybe not an aha, but feel it. You can feel what happens to your field around this issue. So the emotional body. Does the emotional body contract? Does it overexpand? Does it feel balanced? It's, the issue might not be, even though you think it's on the emotional layer, it might not be on the emotional layer. So just asking for the emotional body in relation to this issue. And we'll ask for balance. Notice what happens when you ask for balance. It might move a lot, it might move very little. That's going to tell you where the seed of this issue is. And then you'll work with it. So you'll ask for healing on that layer. Then we're going to go to the mental body. So the same sensation, feeling, issue on the mental body layer. Asking for balance. Notice what you notice. Asking for healing and balance on the mental body. Then going to the spiritual layer. What happens around this issue, the sensation, and the spiritual layer. Come to balance. Asking for healing, perhaps insight on this layer to come into balance. And then letting all of those different layers go, just feeling into the field around you as a whole. Checking in with where your field is at. Did it expand? Did it contract? Did it stay the same? Just asking again for it to come to the place where it's going to serve you most. Then tuning back into the physical body, just feeling into your physical form, the weight of your body on the chair, your breath. And then slowly opening your eyes when you're ready, letting the gaze be soft. So if you need to stay inward more, please do. If if you feel like posting, if you gained any insight. And, so if you've been working with a chronic issue and you gained insight, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to resolve with a 2-minute tuning into that field, but now you know what to work with. Maybe I can come at it at a different angle. And so the more you can tune into your layer, first thing, if you don't remember anything that we do today, checking in with your aura, your energy layer or your energy field, where is it at? The more you can get in the habit of doing that throughout the day, the more you will feel more centered, you'll feel more aligned and able to work with what's going on in a easier way. Um, and then going as you experience life, getting curious, where is the trigger? Where's the issue arising from? And then going to that layer. And a basic but can be really profound way is to simply ask for that balance, again, not meaning like perfect homeostasis, like the scales are completely balanced and straight. It's more of what, if you've been really expanded, coming to balance might be feeling like it's contracted for a bit until you get used to like where's that healthy dance. And so as you are working with the things that come up for you, thought forms, emotions, physicality, physical things, using this diagnostic really, to see like, okay, this is what's going on. Where can I work with it? Oh, good, Audrey. I'm glad you liked it. So you can really use this as a diagnostic tool that really can help expedite, but also just give you insight so you can let yourself off the hook. Right. So much of the time it's like we try all the things and then we beat ourselves up because we're trying all the things and it doesn't work. It's like, oh, it's just my karma or something. And it's like, oh no, we just get to be more refined and seeing where's the issue and then being gentle with self. And so you'll get guidance. Some of you might have already of how to switch your lens to look at something in a more appropriate way. Appropriate meaning more a present time, um, more in alignment with what's actually going on. So definitely put this in your toolbox. It really can make a big difference. Yeah. So thank you all for being with me this morning, and I will see you next week, and have a wonderful day. Take care.